that we're going to do is find the main bone in here and cut our way around that. I've got a really sharp boning knife that I'm working with. You just want to cut straight along the bone. And eventually we're going to make a nice flat piece. Usually when you smoke a pork butt, the bone just slides out beautifully. That's when you know that it's done. But in this case, we're going to be butterflying it and wrapping it all back up. Okay, the secret to Spiessbraten is onions. I've got 5 onions cut up here, and I've got a half a cup of oil already mixed in here. I'm adding a whole lot of spices: salt, pepper, thyme, oregano, little cumin, a little red pepper, cayenne, and some smoked paprika. And what I'm doing right now is just mashing it all in here. I'm trying to release the juices from the onions. I'm also going to add about 2 tablespoons or so of German mustard. Okay, and just mix all that really, really well. Now I'm going to put a single layer of it on a sheet pan, and I'm going to lay the pork right on top of this, and it's going to marinate with all these onions and spices overnight in the refrigerator. Add a little bit more onions in between the layers. Just finish the whole top off. All right, that looks gorgeous. Now we want to cover this up. Got some plastic wrap here. You just want to press it down on top so it's nice and sealed. That's awesome. That's going to go in the fridge for about 6 to 8 hours or overnight. Now it's time to remove all the onions from the pork, and then we're going to roll it up. For the next step, we're going to truss the meat. Trussing basically just means tying it up. We're going to tie up this roll so that it doesn't fall apart when we put it on the spit. You're going to use butcher's twine, and you're going to start with the short end away from you. And you're going to slide the piece of meat right underneath of it. We're going to tie a butcher's knot. It's not that hard, it just takes a little bit of practice. So bring the short end toward you, place the short end under the long end. So you see the short end is under the long end. Then you're going to take the short end and you're going to bring it across both pieces and then tuck it up and under the loop. And then you're just going to pull it tight. If you prefer to tie a regular knot, that's perfectly fine too. This type of knot though gives you a little bit of give. You can go forwards and backwards with it, make it lighter, tighter and looser. Now we're going to continue wrapping the twine around the entire piece of pork. To do that, I turn the pork this way. I'm going to make a loop and just twist it. See how it's twisted here? Then you're going to slide it under the meat, making sure this other little extra piece is out. Then you're just going to pull it tight. Okay, repeat that all the way down until you go all the way down the piece of meat. All right, that looks pretty good. For the next step, we're going to take this and run it underneath the piece of meat lengthwise. Just like that. Give it a nice pull, and then just tie this off to the short end of the knot that was left from the beginning. And this can just be a regular type knot. There you go. Time to put the pork onto this rotisserie spit. I've already put some Crisco on here. That's just going to help when we want to remove it from the spit later on after we're done cooking it. You're going to take this and you're going to run it up through the middle as best as you can. Make sure that these prongs go nicely into the pork. All right, let's repeat with the second set of meat. You're going to slide on the other piece here. And again, try to get the prongs into the pieces of meat. I'm going to use a chimney starter in order to get my coals going. To do that, I'm taking a brown paper bag, rolling it up, and just putting 2 layers inside of the base of the chimney starter, just like that. Then I'll fill coals on the inside and light it down here and get the coals nice and red and ashy, and then I'll dump them into the new grill. There's another very important step to making Spiessbraten, and that is using beech wood. That's what they use in Germany. It's not that easy to find in the States, but you can find it online. I got this bag on Amazon. While your coals are getting nice and hot, and while your meat's coming to room temperature, just dump a whole bunch of these chips into some water to soak. Then we're going to sprinkle it on throughout the cook. Once the coals are hot, just dump them inside of the grill, add that nice moist beech wood on top, and get the rotisserie going, and keep it cooking. Alright, the Spiessbraten has been going for about 2 hours now. I've been adding coal and I've been adding more wood chips as we go. We're going to keep it going until it reaches about, 195 degrees. But it is looking delicious right now. Okay, this has been going for about 4.5 hours now. You will see that it's a little bit burnt. This spit rod that I'm happening to be using unscrews in the middle, and in the middle of the cook, it actually unscrewed and the meat dropped into the flames, so it got a little bit crispy on the outside. But I'm still keeping it going because I want to make sure that the ends right over here, that they get nice and cooked through as well. You want to try to have as even as a cook as possible. Fortunately, there's people in my family who like their meat well done, so they'll get the center and I'll get the ends. But we're almost ready to pull this off. Again, you want to cook it so that the inside part reaches about 195 degrees. That way it's going to be really tender and will just melt in your mouth. While the pork's cooking on the barbecue, you're going to want to cook down the onions. I just put these in a pot just as is, added about 1/2 cup to 1 cup of water. You could also add German beer to it if you want. And then just cook it down until they're nice and tender. I've cooked them down for about an hour, turned it off, let the meat finish cooking, and then actually just now turned it back on because we're almost ready for dinner. After it's rested for about 30 minutes, you're just going to want to slice right on into it. And you can serve it up with those onions that we reduced down, some German bread, some German potato salad, you name it. This is going to be a great meal. Enjoy your Spiessbraten.